The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Hello and welcome into, can you believe it, week 9 of the Mike Clowney Show. I'm the voice of the Eagles, Adam Cavalier, alongside Carson-Newman head football coach Mike Clowney, as Carson-Newman pulls out a fantastic aerial performance and a solid second half defensive effort in a 21-7 win at the Wasps of Emory and Henry. Mike Clowney did things a little differently on Saturday. First 200-yard passing game by this program since the very first game of your career. Had a season low for rushing yardage, and yet didn't matter. Took to the air to down an Emory and Henry club that's in its first year in Division II and probably ahead of schedule. What did you see from your team on Saturday at Fred Self Stadium?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's plays in like with the passing game, because I think it's something that we continually try to work on, try to be able to involve those guys on the outside a little bit more. They did some things where just kind of basically giving us one-on-one coverage, and we knew we had to win a couple of those, and our guys were eventually able to do that. Road win. How much of a sigh of a relief is it to break that skid? It's good, because the thing is, it's not whether you can or can't. Sometimes you just need to see it on the books to put it behind so that you can move on. For a young football team, I think traveling can always be a challenge, and so they made it their mission this week to overcome that.
This was an odd one. I think if you were to ask somebody that knows football in the South Atlantic Conference, who's going to pass for more yardage, who's going to rush for more yardage? Well, you're going to take Emory and Henry passing for more, third best passing offense in the league, and Carson-Newman rushing for more, league leaders in rushing yardage, and both schools toward the bottom of the other category. But trotted out a new quarterback in Charles Mutter. He played sparingly, and the Wasps did a solid job on the ground. How much of an adjustment period did it take to get that bottled up, considering how it was the most run-heavy game that they've been all season long?
The one thing with them that they do really well is the RPO game.
Yeah.
And so the big thing with that, having a new quarterback, the thing that was different was like he was a little bit better runner, and so they kind of involved him in the running game, and so he was responsible for a lot of what they picked up on the ground.
An uncommon game. It's the first time that Carson-Newman has beaten a team when getting outrushed since 2014 at Brevard. It's been that long. A first game in your career that you've won a game when losing the battle for time of possession and losing the turnover battle. Never felt like the adversity was stacking up against you. Is this just the mark of a team taking another step towards veteran status?
I think it is, and I thought, you can kind of get that feel on the sideline. This week we talked about 2 Timothy 1:7 all week. God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And talking about taking that love and a sound mind and putting it into that kind of being part of the power part of it for us. And I thought guys did a good job of gelling together. We don't score on the first. We throw an interception first drive. They score first drive. A week ago, we sitting over there managing, all these emotions that in a negative way. But then this time you see our guys get back to the point to where they work and encouraging one another, to work ourselves back into the football game.
Carson-Newman gets the job done over Emory and Henry on the road, 21-7. We break down the first half when we come back after this on the Mike Clowney Show.
Tri-Light is proud to support Carson-Newman Athletics. We salute the student athletes who are working hard to make great things happen on the field, in the classroom, and in the world. It takes vision, commitment, and teamwork, qualities we share at Tri-Light. Our mission is to provide life-changing opportunities by building a world-class fiber broadband network. If you'd like to learn more, please visit trilight.net or call us at 833-847-0824. We love to cheer for our home teams, like the Eagles. It means more when we're rooting for the people we know. Did you know Tri-Lite is your home team internet provider? We're right here in Jefferson City, serving the people we know with our ultra-fast, ultra-reliable fiber broadband network. And we'd love to serve you. Learn more at trilite.net or by calling 833-847-0824. Go Eagles!
Back on the Mike Clowney Show as Carson-Newman triumphs over the Emory and Henry Wasps by a final score of 21-7. Mike Clowney, you alluded to it before the break. Not exactly a fast start, but not exactly the toe stub of the Mars Hill game or the Tusculum game. Yes, Emory and Henry scored on their opening drive, but it took 13 plays. And 7 minutes and change, and converting on a 4th down and 2 third downs. Yes, you fumbled away your opening possession, but as opposed to those 2 weeks against Mars Hill and Tusculum on the road, there was no rattling. Did you notice a change quickly, or when did you kind of grasp that, hey, okay, we're unbothered by this week?
We probably, after that turnover, you kind of like, but then I think, kind of going into the third series where you start kind of seeing, we're moving the football, but we haven't kind of like put it completely together. And like I say, most of the time it's the vibe from the guys on the sideline. They kept their arms around one another. The guy comes off, makes a mistake, we pat him on the butt. That's what we talked about all week was, like we have to hold one another accountable, but there's a way to do it and there's a way not to. And so continue to grow and develop and learning how to do that to where we can hold one another accountable in a way that helps us still be productive at the end of the day.
A game where you talk about holding people accountable. Ivan Corbin struggled early, missed on 7 of 8 passes in a stretch spanning the second quarter break and started 4 of 13. But when he found his footing, and that might be literally with setting his feet, really quality. 11 of 15 to finish. He is just the second quarterback in the last 22 years to complete 15 passes in a game, joining DeAndre Thomas. 200 yards, we obviously hit on it at the outset, but what did he do to settle in and navigate the passing attack for the final, let's go 35 minutes or so of that one?
I think it's what you said, literally, like, sometimes Ivan, he's got as live arm as I've seen, but, it turns out sometimes literally the fundamentals with him just kind of getting settled, finding the routes and then delivering the ball the way it needed to be delivered. And I thought, as the game went along, I thought he did a good job of being able to settle in. I thought Coach Pursley and the offensive staff did a good job of getting him some throws to where we could play throw and catch a little bit, and then being able to push the ball back down the field.
Did some unique things, didn't always capitalize on them, but from the outset, I think it was a wheel route to Drew Morrison on the first play of the game that is this close. I don't know how much speed Drew has, if he's going to take it the distance, but had a solid 5-yard lead. He's able to haul that in. Really felt like you mixed it up a little bit offensively. Was that the plan from the outset, or what Emory and Henry gave you as the game went along?
That was really the plan from the outset, to try to, involve some different people and do a couple of different things. A lot of that too was based on some of the stuff that we felt like we would get from them.
Carson-Newman gets the job done over the Emory and Henry Wasps. Game was tied 7-7 at the halftime break. And here are those first half highlights.
We'll see if that holds true to form. 3rd and goal from the 5 for the Wasps. Mutter from the gun, takes the snap, hands off, Overstreet straight ahead, steps through the line and bursts into the end zone. Touchdown Wasps. Grayson Overstreet finds pay dirt for the 5th time this season. And the Wasps cap a beefy 13-play, 79-yard drive with a 5-yard touchdown run. City unfurled 4 today. Here on 3rd and 13, Mutters back to pass. He's pressured, escapes, rolls to the right side, smashed as he throws deep. Ball flutters in the air. Going up to get it is Kendall Williams, and he picks it off at the 10. For all intents and purposes, a punt, but Kendall Williams seizes the INT, the first of the year, and the Eagles trade a turnover for a turnover. 1st and 10, Carson-Newman from the 10. Reach for Domino's. Get a large one-topping pie for $6.99 with your Carson-Newman ID. Domino's, the official pizza of the Carson-Newman Eagles. 1st and 10 for Carson-Newman from its own 10. Eagles throw a screen right side to Nelson. Makes one man miss at the 15. Shifty move up to the 20. And gets brought down along the numbers right side up at the 23-yard line. 1st down yardage before he's kneed the Carson-Newman 31. Mutter from the gun, takes the snap, play fake, floats it, middle of the field, incomplete. Intended for the backup tight end, Roman Ridley. It was batted away by Callum Clements, and the Eagles force the turnover on downs.
Great play by Callum. I'll tell you what, that with a couple guys on the inside that were open.
23 seconds left first quarter. Eagles trailing 7-0. 3rd and 10 for Carson-Newman. Toward the right hash at their own 35. Corbin in the gun, King to his left. 4 wide, 2 each direction. Wide side to the left. Corbin rolls to the wide side, throws complete to Westfield at the 45 for 1st down yardage. And Westfield muscles his way along the left sideline out of bounds, where he gets an escort from Chindrick Can up at the 49-yard line. Needed. So on the punt is Ethan Muncie. He'll roll right and punt right. Major Williams will retreat and field it at the 25. Looks to the left sideline and has a seam. Williams across the 45 and 50. Williams with blockers across the 40 and 30. And Williams spun around inside the 30. Down at the 25-yard line. A 50-yard punt return for Major with nothing, and do get the football to start the second half. Corbin from the gun. Takes the snap. Play fake to Curtis. Drops, rolls right. Corbin looking, going to chuck it downfield. Coming back is Westfield. He catches it at the 40. A stiff arm, stays on his feet inside the 40 and brought down in the boundary right side. Down at 45 to play first half. Eagles trail 7-0. 3rd and 6 for Carson-Newman. Corbin drops back to pass, throws into the flat, complete to Corey Waters along the left sideline, and Waters slips his defender and gets down to the 15-yard line. 18 yards through the air to Corey Waters, forced out by Scott along the left side. Tash at the Wasp 15. Corbin out of the gun, takes the snap and gives to Nelson left side. Nelson has the seam. He's across the 10. He's across the 5. Nelson reaching for the end zone. He's there. Touchdown, Carson-Newman. A man's run from Tyree Nelson, breaking tackles at the 10 and 5 and housing it from 15 yards out.
All right, those are the first half highlights from a tie game, 7-7 at the halftime break. Mike Clowney, another week where it feels like the 2-minute drill is what really gets the offense into a position to knife down the field and do so quickly. Tyree Nelson punches it in from 15 yards out for a score with about 89 seconds left in the first half. What'd you see from your team on that drive? Things had muddled a little bit, both sides. Turnover, punt with a missed field goal mixed in there. What happened on that drive for your team to finally bite things off and put it in the end zone?
I think that's where you talk about 2-minute drill. Like, it naturally brings some type of energy and anxiety to the situation. And so, I thought, once we got into that mode, I thought guys kind of got their bodies moving, forced us to have to think a little bit faster, respond a little bid quicker, and then, to be able to come out of it with some success also helped.
Message in the halftime locker room at a tie game after you'd seized the day, and it felt like you had control in the second.
It felt like even in the first half that, I felt like even though we were behind on the scoreboard, we were still fairly in control of the football game. We were moving the ball at points in times, and then we'd have some type of little blow up. that kind of prevent us from scoring, or defensively we played steady, pretty much steady the entire time after that first drive. So I felt like we were in control of the game, even though at that point in time we were behind on the scoreboard. And so that was really the message at halftime. Defense continue to do a good job keeping them off the scoreboard, and then offense going and finding some footing. We felt like there's some things that we could have done better. Really with the running game in the first half, and then once we start moving the ball a little bit more in the running game, we were able to kind of connect on some passes.
Did some really fun and unique things with Tyree Nelson, either out of the backfield or when he was positioned in the slot. Haven't done the research yet, but the last time that somebody led you in rushing and receiving from a catching perspective, 40 and 41 for Nelson. How much of a problem is that to deal with when you're able to utilize somebody in creative ways like you were on Saturday?
I think that's one thing you want to be able to push, like someone like him that's got the talent to be able to do that. It just allows you to kind of be able to play him in different places to do different things. From a defensive coordinator standpoint, it allows you to be able to get in different sets and formations without changing the personnel and kind of tip your hand.
Carson-Newman gets the job done over the Emory and Henry Wasps by a final score of 21-7. When we come back on the Mike Clowney Show, we'll break down the second half. That's after these messages.
Sure, we've been around a while. 171 years to be exact. Founded on the banks of a creek. This creek, Mossy Creek. We know the power of a liberal arts-based Christian education and the tremendous potential of what can be found on this campus, within this community. We are found here and here and here and here and also here in the classroom, on the field. We are adventurers, dreamers, believers, passionate and compassionate, curious and clever, driven by a common purpose towards a common goal.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are family on a journey of discovery.
I found my passion. I found my calling.
I found family.
I found a way to lead. I found a place to call my own.
I found purpose.
There's something for everyone.
We are.
We are.
We are Carson-Newman.
What will you find?
All right, back on the Mike Clowney Show as Carson-Newman collects a 21-7 win over the Emory and Henry Wasps in Week 9. I'm Adam Cavalier alongside the Eagles head man Mike Clowney. Mike, a second half where if the first half you didn't find the fast start, the second half, no question about it. Pretty hefty dose of Braxton Westfield and the go-ahead touchdown, one of those classic long balls in single coverage to a guy who has a chance to play on Sundays. That all it was? Just, hey, Braxton's one-on-one, go throw it to him?
I mean, there was some of it, like we knew we had him backside, but a lot of it too, man. He made a couple of really good plays. There's one ball that's overthrown and he comes back and, just great effort to get back to the ball and catch it. And then the next one, like the guy's contending, he makes a play over the top of him and then finishes it with a touchdown.
Third career 100-yard receiving day for Braxton, first since J.J. Lewis had 100 yards against UVA Wise in that spring COVID season. How gratifying is it to see Braxton, who's you've thrown the ball to him a ton, just about as much as any Carson-Newman wide receiver has seen passes come his way in the option era. How gratifying is it to see him get the yardage as opposed to just the catches?
It is good because we've talked about, him having catches and a touchdown but not a ton of yardage. And most people all seasons kind of like, kept two guys over there. And so finding windows to get into, to get him the ball at points and times have been difficult, but it was good to see him capitalize this weekend.
We've talked a lot about the offense, but the defense, probably the most steady and impressive part of that game. Limit Emory and Henry to 117 yards of offense after halftime and just 57 yards on the ground in the second half. Got washed down a few times early that created some big runs, but made adjustments, made them one-dimensional, and felt like you bottled everything up, especially second half. Obviously, you score in the first drive and then nothing after the fact. What did you see from that side of the ball? Never really let what's a pretty challenging offense to defend get going after that opening possession.
You know, watching them even early in the season on offense, like with some of the stuff they did RPOs, I thought they operated as well as anybody in the league. And so going into that game, if you said, hey, like this is going to be the kind of scenario where you play defensively, you know, I would say that we were capable, but like, you know, we hadn't been consistent, you know, to be consistent enough throughout the season to be able to say, hey, like we'll have that type of performance. But the thing that's happened is, you know, when our defense plays well, we normally play well.
Emory and Henry is one of the only teams in the SAC with 3 guys who have caught more than 400 yards worth of passes, and felt like it was a growing moment for your secondary. They've been pretty strong all year long, but Callum Clements, Major Williams, Jackson Ward, Kendall Williams, Jalen Anderson, there weren't a lot of moments where Wasp wideouts or tight ends were running free and easy. What did you see from that group to lock things down?
They did a really good job of competing. And then some of the stuff that Emory does, like it requires great communication. And it was, you know, fun just to kind of see them talk back and forth on the sideline, you know, just to make sure that we were where we needed to go and not didn't turn someone loose. And so, like, you know, that shows a ton of growth and maturity for them too.
Alonzo Houston gets his 7th career 10-tackle performance, something that's been a little bit more difficult to come by this season for him. All over the place. I guess that's probably old hat for Alonzo, but haven't had many opportunities to single him out. Nice to see him doing that at the tail end. I guess he does have the COVID season if he so chooses. Who knows what eligibility is for anybody anymore. But how nice is it to see him doing that close of this season?
That's good because, I mean, Alonzo runs around and, like, he's starting to, you know, take the form a little bit more of a leadership role. You know, it's not something for him that I'd say is natural, but it's something that, you know, you need to grow into. And so it's good to see him respond. Like Jake, you know, hadn't played, just to kind of, and also see him kind of bring Jake along within the game was good.
Probably the one that the win means the most to is the hometown boy, Caleb Goins. Not exactly a stat sheet stuffing kind of game for him, but gratifying to see him win on his home turf.
It was. I mean, he's been a staple for our program, you know, especially within the last 2 years. And just a super great guy, good football player, you know, continued to be, you know, like I say, he doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but continues to be steady Eddie, gets us lined up, communicates well, you know, pushes guys on defense.
It's always fun to see the variances in those stats based on how a game goes. And when you make a team one-dimensional, as you did in the second half, somebody's going to pop up in the sacks. And shocker, Trezell Giardini Weish bypasses Robbie Tebow on the all-time sack list. Second career 3-sack-plus performance for him, and had some drive enders late. You talk about a leader. There's Mr. Carson-Newman. Quality efforts out of Trezell, especially in the second half.
That's where Mr. Carson-Newman, he's just a great guy. That's what we talk about, you know, reminding guys of scouting report on the sideline when he's not in the game. And that's a testament to what we're talking about, you know, and then he goes in the game. You know, Frank Lee's taking credit for a good little bit of Trezell's work, which there is a lot of validity to that. You know, Frank was smart enough to kind of put them in different situations to play to their strengths, and then, you know, be able to get the quarterback to pull up to where, you know, Trezell has a chance. And then his relentlessness, you know, like kind of once he gets going, you know, like now he's at that point to where, you know, he believes that he's in the game, that he's going to make that play, and, you know, eventually we were able to start getting him down.
Carson-Newman gets the job done over the Emory and Henry Wasps on the road. Final score 21-7, and here are those second half highlights.
First, there's 3rd and 7 for the Wasps from the Eagle 45, middle of the field. Mutter back to pass. He's pressured. He's hit by Trezell Giardini Weish, and the all-region discus performer drops him back at the 49. 15 career sacks for Trezell Giardini Weish. Mutter
using those backs in the backfield, getting them out in the passing game.
2nd and 2 for Carson-Newman after the 8-yard gain. Corbin takes play fake. Going to throw it long to Westfield along the right sideline. Westfield runs under it, gets his face mask tugged at the 45. No flag there, and brought down by Can inside Emory and Henry territory down at the 45. All right. 2nd and 13. Fake the counter, going to throw long. Westfield, right sideline. Westfield beats his man, hauls it in at the 10, and strikes for 6. Touchdown, Carson-Newman. Ivan Corbin, the old heave-ho to Braxton Westfield. 46 yards, and he has his 17th career receiving touchdown. Eagles lead.
21-yard line, 22-yard line.
Pin split to the short side right. Snap back to Mutter. Back to pass. Throws back shoulder. Pin right sideline. Jalen Anderson steps in front of it and deflects it away along the right side of the end zone. Go back shoulder to Pin along the right side, but Anderson had it defensed well. Might have got lucky. Never turned his head, but he was armed skyward. Out of the gun with Hill to his right. Mutter takes, gives straight ahead. Hill slithers through a seam, and Hill hits the deck. Carson-Newman thinks they have stopped him. Waiting on this officiating crew for the signal. Eagle football. All right. Carson-Newman turns back Hill and gets a turnover on downs inside the 20. Just the second time this year. A team in Henry, 49. Mutter out of the gun. Claps, now turns. Ford out to the short side left. Peoples and Mitchell to the wide side right. Overstreet off of Mutter's left hip. Eagles blitz up the middle. Handoff Overstreet. The blitz disrupts it. Alonzo Houston is there. And it's a loss of 1 back to the 48. Houston timed the snap count perfectly. Shades of Troy Polamalu back there for Alonzo Houston. 4th down, 3 to go.
Just a great call. What a great call by Coach Slade. Has not shown that all game and just timed it perfect. Because if they had seen it coming, they would have.
Is at the right hashes at the 14. 4th and 3. Muncie receives it and gets off an end-over-end kick that Williams will field at the 10. Williams has a seam. He's across the 20 and 25 to the 30 and 40. Williams with the punter to beat, but he won't beat the punter. Knocked out of bounds in Wasp territory down at the 41-yard line. Major Williams making magic happen with his legs again in the punt return. 49 yards. Eagles have it 1st and 10 at the Wasp 41. Wasp 23. Corbin in the gun. Curtis to his left. Fake the counter. Throw it. Right sideline. Jump ball. It's caught. Did he get his feet down? Yes, he did. Touchdown. Carson-Newman. Cade Meeks seizes it along the right side of the end zone. He's got his first career touchdown grab, and it puts the Eagles up 2 scores, 20-7, with 6:59 to play in the 4th quarter. 23 yards to Cade Meeks. 21-7. 2nd and 9 from the 10. Mutter back to pass. He's hit. He's dropped. Trezell Giardini-Weish. 16 career sacks. He's passed Robbie Tebow. The timeout, Emory and Henry.
The great thing you can say about Trezell is he never stops. Never stops. Guys are always bigger than him, but he's out there
for the Wasps. Mutter out of the gun, back to pass. Stands in the pocket. Trezell Giardini-Weish is there, and he's down again. Weish, his 3rd sack of the day. Knocks him down back at the 16. A loss of 3, and it's 4th and 15.
You see his
7 with 23 seconds left.
This officiating crew has let him play, and you love that.
Mutter out of the gun, back to pass, pressured up the middle. Jordan Wilson is there. Jordan Wilson slings him to the surface. A sack for Wilson. Back at the 30. A loss of 7. And the Wasps unable to stop it.
And that's it.
Carson-Newman.
All right, those are the second half highlights from Carson-Newman's win on the road at Emory and Henry. When we come back, it's time to walk the field with Talent Talk. That's after this on the Mike Clowney Show. All right, back on the Mike Clowney Show as Carson-Newman triumphs on the road at Emory and Henry, 21-7. Time now for Talent Talk. And this week, Michael Wantrang walks the field with Mike Pepin.
Hi again, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Talent Talk. We're joined by offensive lineman Mike Pepin. Mike, let's go ahead and get to walking here.
Let's go.
You grew up in the state of Florida. How would you describe high school football in the state of Florida?
High school football in the state of Florida is completely different than anything I've seen up here. I mean, you're playing against 3 and 4 stars every week. You're playing up against 6'4", 6'5" guys in the trenches every week. So it's definitely gotten me ready for where I am right now.
You had quite the route to get to Carson-Newman. How would you describe the journey you've been on the last 5 or 6 years?
It was honestly kind of crazy. Out of high school, I ended up going to Coastal Carolina University. Was a member of their track and field team. Ended up playing football, walking on their football team. After 2 seasons there, I transferred to Tusculum University right down the road in Greenville, Tennessee. I met my girlfriend, Megan. We've been together for 4 years now. Ended up getting my 4-year degree from Tusculum University. And then after that, I decided to pursue my master's degree here at Carson-Newman.
What kind of challenges are there in being a student athlete, having to go through all those changes?
It's definitely a lot. I could say COVID made things a lot easier, going to online school, doing everything online, making sure I get all my stuff done, all my work done, like just being able to log on Zoom, not having to go back and forth to campus or to school. So I think COVID has actually helped me in a way make the transition.
Have you ever scored a touchdown?
Never scored a touchdown. I have recovered a fumble.
Not even in grade school or high school, you never scored a touchdown?
Played some tight end in high school. I was a blocking tight end, wore 42, but that was about the closest I ever got.
Let's do a few wild card questions here. Sure. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live?
I've always wanted to go out west, so I'd probably say California. In the world, though, probably somewhere tropical, being from Florida.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Do you have any hidden talents?
Hidden talents? Not many. I'm just a big guy and I like to move people on Saturdays, so.
Well, you've done very well with that. If you could meet anybody in history, be it an actor, an athlete, a statesman, who would you choose?
I'd probably say 1 being LeBron James. I'd probably say 2 being Barack Obama, being everything that he accomplished when he was in office. And then 3, I'd probably say Joe Thomas, just because everything he did. I played a lot of games in my career. He's played a lot of games in his career, and I think that's something I try to model myself after, being healthy.
That'd be a great group of 3 right there. As you've gone through this, what kind of messages would you give to the younger guys after you've gone through your journey?
I say just stay the course. Things get really hard. Whenever you get to college, you're away from home. Mom and dad aren't there anymore. Things happen, life happens. So I say just stay the course, put your head down, and just keep working. I think you'll be all right.
Last question for you as we come to a stop here. What's next for you when your playing days are over? What would you like to do with the future?
I got a couple options. I'm getting my MBA right now. So I could choose to use that degree, go into the workforce, and try to lead people that way. Or I've thought about taking the coaching route, maybe coaching one day and giving back to the sport that I grew up loving.
Mike, really appreciate the time. Been good talking to you.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you.
That's Mike Pepin on this episode of Talent Talk.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael Watrang, Mike Clowney, Mike Pepin, 1-year guy, but feels like he's come in and instant impact on that O-line room.
It's like being in this new world, where you deal with so many transfers, and it's just one of those things like, when you start dealing with transfers, one thing that you don't ever know is what you're going to get, how well guys are going to fit into the program, and especially when you're taking a guy that only has 1 year. But Mike has done a phenomenal job just coming in, buying in, being a part of everything that we're doing, and not just being a part of it, kind of being a voice for us. And so, man, we're super excited about, the time that we've been able to have with him as a player here.
One thing that I do want to touch on before we get to the look ahead, special teams. Major Williams, 95 yards in punt return yardage. That's tied for the second most in a single game in program history, with David Poole and Steve Dees behind Deontay Bolden at Valdosta State from 2004. You didn't score on the first one. You did on the second, a 50-yarder and a 45-yarder for Major. How instrumental was that to setting your team up for success?
I think it's good because even the first one we didn't score off of it, it was at a time we needed some type of spark. We weren't moving the ball offensively. We were getting some stops defensively, and we always talk about finding a way, to create opportunities for ourselves. And I think, not scoring off the first one made our guys offensively a little bit more adamant about making sure we capitalize on the second one.
All right. Got the job done on the road. look to build on success and come home. A lot of stuff going on Saturday. Homecoming, Senior Day, Veterans Appreciation Day. You get UVA Wise, who has looked really strong at home in losses to Tusculum and Mars Hill 2 of the last weeks, sandwiched around a quality road win at Erskine. Let's talk about the familial nature of the close of this thing first. Homecoming, Senior Day. Some pretty special moments at Mossy Creek on Saturday coming this way.
And there are a lot of things going on, and they are special, and you don't ever want to minimize that. But from a football player standpoint, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the same game, it's the same time. Like, we have to show up to play football.
Always my favorite week because it'll take you 25 minutes to make your way up to the radio booth because there's so many people that you gotta see that are back. That's double because both homecoming and trying to send out the seniors with a win with a Senior Day W. UVA Wise, Dane Dameron feels like they're on the cusp. What's it take against a Highland Cavalier club that does the short passing game about as well as anybody?
They do a really good job, and they kind of, like you said, they've been on the cusp. The thing that we've got to do is make sure that we continue to grow and develop. And, we can't worry about their growth and development, which is happening for them. We just have to make sure that our pace is moving faster than their pace, as we go throughout the week.
All right, Mike Clowney, pleasure as always. Congrats on a big road win at the Wasps of Emory and Henry.
All right, thank you, Al.
That's Carson-Newman head football coach Mike Clowney. I'm the voice of the Eagles, Adam Cavalier. This has been the Mike Clowney Show. Thanks for watching.